walked into the courtroom with a kind of energy that usually makes lesser mortals nervous. My robe was heavy, my steps were deliberate, and my patience was already running on fumes. I don't need a calendar to know what day it is. I can tell by the smell of desperation and cheap cologne wafting from the litigant tables. Bird stood there, arms crossed, looking like a stone wall in a polyester uniform. I gave him a curt nod as I ascended the bench. I sat down, adjusted my lace collar, because presentation matters, even when you're dealing with the bottom of the barrel, and looked at the docket. Case 214, Tara Jenkins versus Mark Davis. Plaintiff is suing for the return of personal property or its value, $8,500. Defendant claims the items were gifts. I sighed, a long, audible sigh that I hope the microphones picked up. I hate these cases. I loathe them. It's always the same story. Boy meets girl, boy and girl play house, boy and girl break up, and suddenly the girl turns into a forensic accountant demanding a refund on her love life. I looked up. On the plaintiff's side stood Tara Jenkins. She was a vision of bad decisions. Too much bronzer, hair teased closer to God than her morals likely were, and an outfit that said she was heading to a nightclub, not a court of law. She was tapping her acrylic nails on the podium, creating a sound that was already grating on my last nerve. On the defendant's side was Mark Davis. He looked tired. He was wearing a suit that didn't fit him properly, sleeves too long, jacket too tight. He had the look of a man who had been yelled at for 6 months straight and was just happy to be in a room where someone else was doing the yelling. Bird, call the case, I said, my voice cutting through the ambient noise of the room. Tara Jenkins is suing her ex-boyfriend, Mark Davis, for the return of a Rolex watch, a MacBook Pro, and a French Bulldog. She claims these were conditional loans. He says they were gifts. I leaned back in my chair, steepled my fingers, and let my eyes bore into Miss Jenkins. Miss Jenkins, I started, keeping my voice low. Put your hands at your sides. Stop tapping. This isn't a drum circle. She froze, looking offended. I was just nervous, Judge. I don't care about your nerves. I care about the truth. Now, you are suing Mr. Davis for $8,500. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, she said, flipping her hair. He stole from me. Stole is a criminal word. I corrected her immediately. If he stole from you, you call the police. You don't come to Judge Judy. Did you call the police? Well, no, because he didn't steal it. I finished for her. He has possession of items you gave him. There is a very big difference. When did you two break up? 2 months ago, Tara said, after I found out he was texting his ex-girlfriend from college. I didn't ask for the soap opera. I snapped. I asked for a date 2 months ago. How long were you together? 11 months. 11 months, I repeated, letting the short duration hang in the air. So, less than a year. And in that time, you decided to play Sugar Mama and buy him a Rolex? I didn't play Sugar Mama, she protested, her voice going up an octave. We were building a life together. I bought him the watch for his promotion, but it was understood that it was our watch for our future. I took off my glasses. This was going to be one of those days. Miss Jenkins, look at me. Look at me. I waited until she made eye contact. Do I have stupid written across my forehead? No, Your Honor. Good, because you are trying to sell me a bridge in Brooklyn, and I am not buying it. You bought a man a watch for his promotion. That is called a gift. Do you know what a gift is? Yes, but there is no but. I slammed my hand on the desk. A gift is a transfer of property without the expectation of payment or return. Once you hand it over, it belongs to him. It's like spitting in the wind, madam. You can't catch it back. But he cheated, she yelled, pointing a finger at Mark. He betrayed our agreement. What agreement? I asked, putting my glasses back on to inspect her evidence packet. Do you have a contract? A piece of paper signed by Mr. Davis that says, I, Mark Davis, promise not to text my ex-girlfriend, and if I do, I have to return the Rolex? I flipped through the pages. Nothing, just screenshots of angry text messages and pictures of a dog wearing a sweater. I don't have a contract because we were in love, Tara argued. It was a verbal contract. I looked at Mark for the first time. Mr. Davis, step up. He shuffled forward. Yes, Your Honor. Did she give you the watch? Yes, Judge, for my birthday. It was a birthday present. I whipped my head back to Tara. You told me it was for his promotion. Tara stammered. His birthday and his promotion were in the same week, so it was for both. So it was a birthday gift, I said, my voice dripping with disdain. Miss Jenkins, you can't repossess a birthday present because you're mad he dumped you. That is not how the law works. If you give someone a sweater for Christmas and they break up with you on New Year's Eve, you don't get the sweater back. You just get to be cold and single. A few people in the audience chuckled. I silenced them with a look. However, I continued. You also listed a MacBook Pro. Mr. Davis, did she buy you a computer? She did, Mark admitted, but that was for Christmas. I threw my pen down. Christmas, birthday, Miss Jenkins, are you Santa Claus? Why are you buying all these expensive things for a man you've known for less than a year? I have a good job, she said defensively. I make good money. I wanted my man to look good, but the laptop, that was different. He said his broke and he needed one for work. I told him I would buy it for him and he could pay me back when he got his bonus. Now we were getting somewhere. Pay you back. I honed in on the phrase. Mr. Davis, did you agree to pay her back for the computer? No, Your Honor, Mark said, shaking his head. She surprised me with it. It was under the tree, wrapped in paper. It had a bow on it. It had a bow on it, I repeated, looking at Tara. Did it have a bow, madam? Yes, but Tara was twisting her rings nervously. But we had a conversation before Christmas where I said I'd help him out. Show me the text, I demanded. If you expect me to believe this was a loan disguised as a Christmas present, you better have a text message where he says, thanks for the loan, I'll pay you back. Do you have that? She frantically flipped through her stack of papers. I have a text where I asked for the money back after we broke up. That is not what I asked for, I shouted. I don't care what you said when you were angry and vindictive. I care what the agreement was at the time of the transaction. You cannot rewrite history because you are bitter. I watched her fumble. She was losing, and she knew it. She was trying to weaponize the court system to punish her ex-boyfriend. I see it every day. Women who think money buys loyalty, and when the loyalty fades, they want a refund. I can't find that specific text, she muttered. Because it doesn't exist, I said flatly. You bought him a computer, you wrapped it, you put it under a tree. That is a gift. You lose on the watch, you lose on the computer. I checked the docket again. Now, let's talk about the dog. The atmosphere in the room shifted. Property is one thing, animals are another. People get irrational about dogs. A French Bulldog, I read. Name, Gucci. I rolled my eyes. Of course his name is Gucci. Let me guess. He has a matching collar? He does, Tara said, her eyes filling with tears. This seemed like real emotion now, or at least a better acting performance. Gucci is my baby. I bought him. I paid the breeder. Mark just took him when he moved out. Mr. Davis, I turned to the defendant. Why do you have the dog? Mark straightened up. He looked more confident on this point. Judge, she bought the dog, yes, but she hates walking him. She hates cleaning up after him. I did everything for that dog. I fed him. I walked him. I took him to the vet. When she kicked me out, she threw his leash at me and said, take this rat with you. I don't want to look at it. Liar. Tara screamed. I never said that. He kidnapped my dog. Quiet, I yelled. Miss Jenkins, if you scream in my courtroom again, I will fine you for disturbing the peace. Mr. Davis, you say she gave you the dog? Yes, she literally threw the leash at me. And you have proof of that? No, it was in the hallway of our apartment while she was throwing my clothes out the window. I rubbed my temples. This was a mess. Miss Jenkins, I asked, who is the registered owner of the dog? I am. She waved a piece of paper. I have the microchip registration. It's in my name. Bring it here. I ordered Bird. He handed me the document. I scanned it. Indeed, Tara Jenkins. Okay, I said. The dog is registered to you. You paid for the dog. By the letter of the law, the dog is property. However, I paused, looking at Mark. He looked genuinely distressed about the dog. Mr. Davis, do you have any veterinary bills? Receipts for food? I have all of them, Mark said, pulling a thick envelope from his jacket. I paid for his ear infection surgery last month, $600. She refused to pay it because she said she was broke that week, even though she bought herself a new purse. Bring them here. I took the envelope. I started sorting through receipts. There were a lot of them. Petco, Chewy, the local vet clinic, all paid by credit card ending in 4,098. Mr. Davis, is 4,098 your card? Yes, Judge. I looked at Tara. She was glaring at Mark with pure venom. So I said, leaning forward, my voice dropping to that dangerous calm again, you want the dog back. The dog, you claim, is your baby. But when the baby got sick, you bought a purse instead of paying the doctor? That's not true, Tara protested. I told him I would pay him back. Stop with the pay him back, I snapped. You are the queen of pay him back, but I don't see any money moving. I see a woman who likes the idea of a cute dog for Instagram photos, but doesn't like the reality of taking care of a living creature. I sat back. I had a decision to make. The law says the dog is hers, but equity fairness was telling me something else. And in my court, I am the law. But before I could rule, Tara decided to open her mouth again. And another thing, she interrupted. He owes me for the vacation to Cabo. I paid for his ticket. I froze. I slowly turned my head to look at her. You want to talk about Cabo now, I asked? We aren't done with the dog, and you want to bring up a vacation? Yes, because it shows a pattern. He uses me for money. No, I said, staring her down. It shows a pattern of you trying to buy affection. You think if you spend enough money, you own the person, and when they leave, you think you can present a bill. I looked at the receipts again. Then I looked at the microchip paper. Mr. Davis, I asked, where is the dog right now? He's with my sister. Judge, I didn't want to leave him alone. Smart man. I looked at Tara. Miss Jenkins, I am going to ask you a question, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. Because if I find out you are lying, you aren't going to like the outcome. Okay, she said, sounding unsure for the first time. You said Mark kidnapped the dog. Did you or did you not text him on the night of the breakup telling him to take his stupid dog and get out? She hesitated. Her eyes darted to the left. I don't recall those exact words. Bard, I said sharply, get Mr. Davis's phone. I want to see the breakup texts. Tara's face went pale. I didn't bring my phone up, Mark said, patting his pockets. It's in my bag at the table. Go get it, I ordered, and don't you dare delete anything. As Mark walked back to the table, I kept my eyes glued to Tara. She was sweating now. I said to her conversationally, phones are wonderful things. They have long memories, much longer than yours, apparently. Mark returned with the phone. He scrolled for a second, then handed it to Bird, who brought it to me. I put my glasses back on. I read the screen. I started to chuckle. It was a dry, humorless sound. Miss Jenkins, I said, holding up the phone, would you like to know what this says? She didn't answer. She just stared at the desk. It says, I hate you. Get out and take that breathing snore machine with you. If I see Gucci here when I get back from the club, I'm opening the front door and letting him run. The audience gasped. I lowered the phone slowly. My expression hardened into stone. You threatened to let a dog run into traffic? I was just mad, she wailed. I wouldn't have done it. I don't care if you meant it or not. I slammed the gavel, making everyone jump. You abandoned that property. You relinquished your rights the moment you told him to take it or you'd kill it. I took a deep breath. I was just getting started with her. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment, thick and heavy with judgment. Tara Jenkins was no longer tapping her nails. She was staring at her shoes, realizing she had just handed me the rope to hang her case with. So I said, my voice dangerously calm, let's review the bidding, shall we? You claim the watch was a loan. You have no proof. Dismissed. You claim the laptop was a loan. You have no proof. Dismissed. You claim the dog was stolen. But your own text messages prove you ordered him to take the animal or face the consequences of your cruelty. I leaned forward, my eyes locking onto hers. Dismissed. Tara's head snapped up. But what about the vet bills? He owes me for the initial purchase price. The initial purchase price? I scoffed. You think you can treat a living creature like a used car? You bought the dog. You abandoned the dog. Mister, Davis has been caring for the dog, paying for its medical needs, feeding it, loving it. That dog is his now. You don't get a refund because you decided to have a tantrum. I turned to Mark. Mr. Davis, do you countersue? No, Your Honor, Mark said quietly. I just want to keep Gucci and move on with my life. Smart man? I nodded. Very smart man. You are lucky to be rid of her. I looked back at Tara. She was fuming. Her face was turning a shade of red that clashed horribly with her bronzer. Miss Jenkins, I said, you seem to be under the impression that relationships are financial transactions. You invest, and if the stock doesn't perform, you want your money back. That is not how life works. That is not how the law works. It's not fair, she burst out. I spent thousands on him. He lived in my apartment. He ate my food. He drove my car. And, I raised an eyebrow, did you charge him rent? No, because we were a couple. Exactly, I shouted, slamming my hand on the desk. Because you were a couple. You don't get to retroactively charge rent because the relationship ended. You don't get to send an invoice for dinners, movies, or gas money. That is the cost of doing business in the world of romance. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You lost, deal with it. She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off with a sharp gesture. I'm not finished, I said. You mentioned a vacation to Cabo. You claim he owes you for the ticket. Do you have a contract for that? It was implied, she yelled. Who pays for a whole vacation for someone else? People in love, I retorted. People who are generous. People who aren't keeping score. But apparently, you keep score like an IRS auditor. I looked at the receipts she had submitted for the trip. 2 tickets to Cabo San Lucas. Total, $1,200. Hotel, $2,500. Dinners, $800. I whistled low. You certainly know how to spend money, Miss Jenkins. I work hard for my money? Then maybe you should be smarter with it, I shot back. Instead of buying affection from men you've known for 5 minutes, maybe put it in a 401. Because right now, your return on investment is 0. Tara looked like she was about to explode. You're judging my lifestyle. You're biased. I am judging your credibility, I corrected her. And right now, your credibility is somewhere in the basement. You lied about the watch. You lied about the laptop. You lied about the dog. Why should I believe a word you say about this vacation? Because he said he'd pay me back, she insisted. He said, babe, let's go to Cabo. I'll pay for my half when I get my tax return. I turned to Mark. Is that true? Mark hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but I caught it. Mr. Davis, I warned, don't lie to me. Did you say you'd pay for your half? I might have said something like that. Mark admitted sheepishly. We were drinking. We were planning the trip. I didn't think she'd actually hold me to it. Aha! Tara pointed a triumphant finger at him. See? He admitted it. He owes me half. I sat back, steepling my fingers. This was interesting. So I said to Mark, you verbally agreed to pay for half the trip? I guess so, Mark mumbled. But she booked everything without asking me the price. She picked the most expensive hotel. I can't afford that. That is not the point, I said sternly. If you agree to pay for something, you pay for it. You don't get a pass just because she has expensive taste. You went on the trip, didn't you? Yes. Did you enjoy the trip? Well, mostly, until we fought about the sunscreen. I don't care about the sunscreen, I said. You went. You consumed the service. You agreed to pay half. I looked back at Tara. She was smirking now. She thought she had won. So I calculated quickly. Half of the flight is $600. Half of the hotel is $1,250. That's $1,850. Tara nodded eagerly. Yes, and the dinners. Half the dinners is $400. Did he agree to pay for half the dinners? I asked Mark. No, Mark said quickly. She insisted on ordering the lobster every night. I wanted tacos. I believe him, I said, looking at Tara. You look like a lobster kind of girl, and he looks like a taco kind of guy. So, dinners are on you, but the flight and hotel, Mr. Davis, you owe her $1,850. Mark's shoulders slumped. Tara beamed. However, I said, raising a finger, we are not done. Tara's smile faltered. Mr. Davis, I said, you mentioned earlier that when you moved out, she threw your clothes out the window? Yes, Your Honor. My suits, my shoes, everything. It was raining. Raining, I repeated. Did any of your property get damaged? Yes, Mark said, perking up. My leather jacket was ruined, and my laptop, the one she bought me, got cracked when it hit the sidewalk. Wait a minute, I interrupted. The laptop she bought you, the one I just ruled, was a gift? Yes. So she damaged your property? Yes. Do you have photos? Yes. Mark pulled out more pictures. Here is my jacket in a puddle. Here is the laptop screen. I took the photos. They were clear as day. A pile of wet clothes on a city sidewalk, a cracked MacBook screen. I looked at Tara. The smirk was gone. Miss Jenkins, I said, my voice low and dangerous. Did you throw his belongings out the window? He wouldn't leave, she cried. I had to get him out. You are not the sheriff, I yelled. You don't get to evict people by throwing their property into the street. That is destruction of property. That is vandalism. That is childish. But, quiet, I slammed the gavel again. I am doing the math. You destroyed his jacket. Value? Mark spoke up. It was a vintage leather jacket. $400. $400, I wrote it down. And the laptop repair? Screen replacement is $600. $600, I wrote that down. That is $1,000 in damages caused by your temper tantrum. I looked at the numbers. So I announced, Mr. Davis owes you $1,850 for the trip. You owe Mr. Davis $1,000 for the property damage. I did the final calculation in my head. 1,850 minus 1,850. I looked at Tara. You sued for $8,500. You are getting $850. She looked horrified. That's it? That doesn't even cover my legal fees? You don't have legal fees in small claims court? I snapped. And frankly, you're lucky to get anything at all. You are a vindictive, immature woman who needs to grow up. I turned to Mark. Mr. Davis, you pay her the $850 and consider it a cheap price to pay for your freedom. And keep the dog. He deserves a better home. Mark nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. Thank you, Judge. Don't thank me, I said. Just pick better girlfriends next time. I looked at Tara one last time. And you, Miss Jenkins, next time you want to buy a boyfriend, go to a store that accepts returns, because in the real world, people aren't merchandise. I slammed the gavel down with finality. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $850. The rest of the claim is dismissed. Counterclaim for property damage is granted as an offset. We're done. Bird, get them out of here. I stood up, gathering my papers. As I walked back to my chambers, I could hear Tara still arguing with the bailiff in the hallway. Some people never learn, but today she learned that you can't buy love, and you certainly can't return it for a full refund. I sat at my desk, the quiet of the room a welcome relief. I picked up my tea. It was cold. Perfect. Just like Miss Jenkins's heart.